If you've been hunting for a laptop that can keep up with marathon gaming sessions and handle the heavy lifting of video editing, 3D rendering, or streaming, you're probably wondering whether the Razer Blade 14 can actually deliver on that promise. I've been testing it over the past few weeks, and I'll walk you through what I've seen on the road, at the coffee shop, and in my home office. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the size of the thing is a surprise. It's a 14-inch chassis that feels more like a high-end ultrabook than a traditional gaming machine. Inside, you've got an AMD Ryzen 9 5900HX with 8 cores, so when I fire up Adobe Premiere to render a 10-minute sequence, the CPU pulls it together in under a minute, something that usually takes my desktop a good 20+ minutes. That same power also means the laptop never coughs out of breath when I jump into a title like Cyberpunk 2077 with ray tracing cranked up. The RTX 3070 is a solid step up from the 3060 you see on most mid-range laptops, letting you push high frame rates without sacrificing visual fidelity. In practice, I'm hitting 7580 FPS on a QHD 165Hz panel, which makes the experience feel buttery smooth whether I'm dodging bullets or navigating a complex 3D model. The display itself is another big win for anyone who spends a lot of time in front of the screen. The QHD resolution on a 14-inch panel gives you a pixel density that feels crisp for creative work, text looks razor clean, color gradients stay smooth, and you can see fine details in games that would otherwise get lost on a lower resolution panel. I've also appreciated the 165Hz refresh rate when I'm gaming with a competitive mindset. The high refresh rate pairs nicely with adaptive sync, which eliminates screen tearing when the GPU fluctuates between frame rates. That makes fast-paced shooters feel more responsive, and it reduces eye strain when you're watching long streams or editing color-graded footage. One of the things that could have been a deal-breaker for me is thermal performance. The Blade 14 uses a vapor chamber cooling system that spreads heat across a larger area, keeping the laptop from throttling under sustained loads. While I was bench testing a demanding title like Elden Ring for an hour straight, the temperatures hovered in the low 80s Celsius, not the mid-90s you often see on similarly spec'd machines. That stability lets you stay in the game or stay in the edit without watching performance dip. It also means the fan noise stays relatively low. I can hear the fans in a quiet room, but they don't become a distracting whine. Customization might not be the first thing you think about when you're choosing a laptop, but it can actually improve your workflow. The Blade 14's Chroma RGB keyboard lets you assign colors to individual keys, which is handy if you want a visual cue for macro commands in a game or just a little flair for your workspace. I set the WASD keys to a subtle green and the number row to a cool blue, so at a glance I can see where my most used shortcuts are without looking down. It's a small touch, but it adds a layer of personalization that makes the machine feel more like an extension of your style. The backlit keys also help when you're gaming in a dim room or working late on a project. Sound isn't something many laptop reviewers focus on, but the inclusion of THX spatial audio on this model is a pleasant surprise. In practice, it gives you a more immersive audio picture. When you're playing an FPS, you can pinpoint the direction of footfalls or gunshots, which can be a subtle advantage. For movie nights or binge-watching a series, the audio feels richer than the tinny speakers you typically get on thin and light laptops. It won't replace a dedicated headset, but it's a solid step up from the baseline. Now, let's be real about the pros and cons. The biggest strengths are the raw performance you get from that Ryzen 9 and RTX 3070 combo, the gorgeous QHD 165Hz display, and the efficient vapor chamber cooling that keeps the laptop humming rather than screaming under load. Those